You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do?
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOC-DALI. So if the American public is kind of questioning what's going on with vaccines, questioning what's going on with their polls, questioning what's going on with our elections, they're going to question what's really going on in terms of aliens and UFOs. And although they don't call them unidentified flying objects, now they call them aerial phenomenon, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. But this is more than that. Apparently, allegedly, a scientist who used to work for the Pentagon UFO department says that the U.S. has at least 4 different alien species, their bodies held as proof of alien life. But it's 4 different races of aliens. And describing them is kind of pretty fascinating. And this is somebody who worked for the Pentagon, allegedly. Now, I don't know what I believe. I don't believe that we are the only life forms on Earth. I don't believe that. I'm sorry, not on Earth, in the universe. I do believe that there are ways for there to be life elsewhere. Have they come to the world or to America and crashed? And then, I don't know. But this is what we're being told. This is a scientist who worked with the Pentagon's UFO program. His name is Dr. Eric Davis. He's an astrophysicist specializing in advanced aerospace propulsion. He said he has personally seen classified photos and records from the U.S. government, which allegedly confirm the existence of extraterrestrial life found in wrecked UFOs. This includes at least 4 distinct species that the U.S. now has stored in top secret facilities. Now, Davis noted that the locations of the corpses changed during the Obama administration. So, we have Area 51 in southern Nevada. Remember, it wanted to be invaded. People went on Facebook and they said, let's invade it. So I wouldn't be surprised if, they would move some of the things that they had there, thinking that somebody wanted to invade it. But what are the different species? Okay. So they have the Greys, the Nordics, a race of insectoids, which look like human-sized praying mantises, and a species called the reptilians, due to their humanoid lizard-like appearance. Now, they say there's a minimum of 4 that we know of. He's seen the evidence. He told News Nation's Katie Pavlich about this. He says he compared the Greys to the aliens seen in the science fiction film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Small, gray-skinned humanoid with the large heads and the big eyes, like the emoji alien. The Nordics look like extremely tall Scandinavians with blonde hair. Sound handsome. With the most human-like features of all the alleged alien races. I think I dated somebody that looked like that. And then you have the praying mantis types and then the lizard type, the reptilian saurian and the mantis insectoid. He claimed that the photos and records his government access permitted him to see still classified and no chance that they would be released with UFO disclosure releases for decades. I thought Trump released the UFO data and the UAP, the unidentified aerial phenomena data. I don't think he released the alien data. He said those are still classified, and they're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act because they're probably classified for a 50 to 70-year period, 75-year period, I believe. Now, he is no longer with the Department of War. He said he was not satisfied with the speed of the Pentagon's UFO documents team or the information that had been released in the first 5 batches. To this point, he said the thousands of photos, videos, and decade-old files that were released still don't have definitive proof that extraterrestrials exist or have visited Earth. He said more images and videos capable of being released will provide the proof, and they do not contain harmful information. So he kind of wants to know why we didn't release it. So he actually is a longtime astrophysicist, and he's publicly requested that President Trump grant him immunity so he could reveal the truth about these alien races without fear of prosecution for exposing classified government secrets. He said, I investigated unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, for 30 years. I've seen classified and proprietary defense intelligence industry evidence that the American public and the world have a right to see. So one thing that I find very, very interesting is how the description of these is something we've seen in movies, like for decades. And so how did Hollywood know what they would look like? Is it because of real life accounts of people seeing the aliens? Or is it that to make it more palatable, they're describing them in something that we've seen so we could connect the two and visualize it? But I'm looking at these things. This is some of the stuff you saw in the 1950s and 60s in cartoons and comic books and movies. Davis claims that all the photos, reports, and military records he saw documented incidents involved dead bodies pulled from crash UFOs. He allegedly did not see any information related to alien beings captured alive. And he says he doesn't know what they eat. Most of them that I am aware of were found dead. Well, most of them. What were some of them alive? He said he heard that David Grush had mentioned that there was one that he knew of that had been captured alive, but I don't know anything else. So he's a military veteran, spent 14 years in the Air Force, worked as an intelligence officer for the National Reconnaissance Office, builds and launches surveillance satellites for the Pentagon. And then he, during 2019 to 2021, worked on the UAP task force. But then he eventually became a whistleblower after allegedly learning that elements of the U.S. government had prevented congressional oversight on matters related to extraterrestrials. So, I don't know what to believe. I mean, I'm looking at the pictures of what they think these aliens look like. And I've seen, with the exception of the Nordic blonde, tall Scandinavian, that's kind of interesting. That I wasn't expecting. But, if he says we have the bodies of these, I really would like to see the pictures. I know nobody's going to believe the pictures. They'll say it's AI. But I'd really like to see them and analyze them. The 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So many of your emails and reach outs on social media has been about the DSA. And I think the media is giving them more attention than they deserve. But I also don't think we should blow them off. And so two of my listener questions were around how they really think it's a fad. They think the media is trying to elevate them to a degree that keeps them in the news and keeps them in the news cycles, but it's a fad. Nobody's going to pay attention to them later. It's just going to dissipate. And I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think their rise is going to continue to snowball. And here's why. So one person had told me that they think what it is the younger generation is starting to age. They're paying taxes. They're getting more experience, more wisdom. And they're like, socialism, not going to work. My, though, issue is this younger generation is facing this AI job apocalypse. And these socialists are not, when they're campaigning, I'm socialist. I mean, some of them might be. What they're going to do, especially if they find that they start losing some elections, because remember, they're making some big gains. I mean, the fact that one is running New York City, they're making gains. And they're going to snowball it. They're going to learn. And they're going to evolve. And they're going to figure out how to get in. And how to make their promises work. Even if it's, ruining the city decades down the line. And so as your younger generation is thinking to themselves, well, wait a second. Okay, my mom and dad were able to get a home. They had a job. They had a pension. They had a 401k. They had maternity leave. I mean, I didn't, but I at least had a job. And they did give me, I think it was a 403b. Didn't make much, but at least it was a little something. The younger generation is going to be like, I can't afford a house. I don't have a job. I always have to worry about losing my job. So you get a younger, more charismatic person, like let's say El Sayed, who I think is a piece of work, but he is resonating with voters because he's like, I went to medical school and I'm a doctor, even though he's not really, he doesn't practice. So as far as I'm concerned, he got his MD, but is he practicing? Is he really a practicing doctor? And this is the American way, and you guys aren't getting the American way, and I'm going to help you get the American way because this is wrong. They know exactly what to say. You don't have a home. No, I don't have a home. You're still paying rent. You're worried about your job security. And all they have to do is say that. And they got the person to listen. When you have the Republicans say, well, capitalism is the way to go. Yeah, capitalism is the way to go, but that's not resonating with people who feel like capitalism isn't working for them. And as these candidates are looking older and older, see, it used to be, even though JFK, broke records, even Bill Clinton, being younger, having a family in the White House, even though presidents before would have families in the White House, like Roosevelt and FDR and things like that, but still, the candidates were, well, you want them seasoned. They won't get elected unless they've shown they've had decades of experience and they've worked for you and they've earned their way up. That's not happening. I mean, look how Pete Buttigieg was mayor of Des Moines? Great, nice guy, but he's running for the presidential primary. Where do you go from mayor to president? But people don't care. Because what the narrative is now is experienced politicians suck. Experienced politicians are corrupt. You don't want an experienced politician. And the Republicans proved that with Trump. The Democrats watched what happened with Trump and they were like, okay, whoa, that's interesting. Trump starts out 2015, 2016, right? Saying, guys, don't give me money. I got money. You don't worry about it. I got this. And then, of course, in order to advance, you have to show you have new donors and individual donors and, But first, he's like, guys, I got this. And, politicians suck. They're corrupt. They're this. Drain the swamp. This is what needs to be done. Why isn't anybody doing it? Why is daylight savings time, still being done? Why are we, letting Iran, have a nuclear weapon and keep threatening us? Why, aren't we building savings accounts for our kids early on? Why aren't we? So he comes up with common sense stuff and he wins twice. So now you have the Democrats going, all these Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's saying, I didn't know Biden had an issue. Biden looked fine to me. The younger generations are like, that's not my party. These guys' heads are up the retroperitoneum. So you're going to have a movement, whether it's called a socialism movement or not, that is anti-old school politics. It worked for the Republicans, and the Democrats are going to make it work for them. And when you go, but some of their ideas are extreme, they won't work. We know that. But to somebody who doesn't have a home, whose gas prices are high, he's being threatened in California that, eventually he's going to have an electric vehicle. He sees these influencers make money and travel all over the world. They want to also. They're going to be like, you know what? Doesn't hurt to change the status quo. Anything's different or better than this. And there is still the American dream. We're hearing small businesses are still doing well. We're companies, obviously people are still making money. But things are changing. Whether it was COVID, whether it's people not wanting to go to work, and employers having to bribe them and give them so much money to get them to go to work that now their labor costs are too high. Is it because of labor lawsuits and DEI, and where employers are like, you know what, an AI employee leaves me with no headache. I don't have to worry about maternity leave, none of that. I get to save money. I don't have to pay for 5 days of work for only a 4-day work week, as employees are demanding 4-day work weeks. So employers are like, this is how I'm going to answer to that. So the concept of, look, the socialism thing is going to be just a fad. Using the term socialism is, but you're going to have people really, really know how to grab these younger individuals, get them behind something. Because also everybody needs a passion. So if they're not working, if they're not getting married and having kids, if they don't have anything else to really get excited about in their life, they're going to go to activism. And look, you want to protect the environment. That's wonderful. You want to, improve, homelessness. And I think that, wanting to make the world a better world is a beautiful thing to do, but be educated about it. When we have people who never lived in a socialistic regime or a communistic regime start advocating for those same things, yeah, you kind of need to go, will you go spend a few years in China and then come back and then see if you still feel the same? Let's just tax the rich, tax the hell out of the rich. We're just going to take money from the rich. That's not going to go away. People like that. We're going to wipe out your student loan debt. Sounds good to me. Then what? You're also going to write off my mortgage? You're going to write off my car debt? Medicare for all. People have to pay for Medicare. Medicare isn't free. Do you know that? So, no, I don't think it's a fad. I think the old Democratic establishment, because of what happened with Biden and Fauci and all that, there's no trust in that Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is trying to evolve and figure out with their big tent where they need to be and how they need to get new voters. And they're going to lie. They're going to construe, concepts and say, no, that's actually going to help. That's going to make things work for you. Free bus rides are going to, make things better for you. A government-run grocery store, more government. And the average, young person that's about to lose their job may say, you know what? Fine by me. I got nothing to lose. Which means we need to figure out how to ensure that capitalism works for everybody, that the American dream is out there for everybody. It's difficult when somebody doesn't want to go and get a job or work, every day they're getting paid. You ask your boss to pay you for more days than you're working. That is a little difficult. And my worry is things are going to have to get really, really bad for things to get good again. And I don't want that. I don't want people to be in poverty. But something's got to change. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So what was it, Roy Orbison? Only the lonely. A lot of us are lonely, it looks like. A study of over 135,000 adults found that a surprising number of individuals feel lonely often, and that some of the loneliest people aren't rural, but in urban areas, and that COVID is to blame. This is according to Fox News. 1 in 6 adults plagued by loneliness. Professors at Imperial College London conducted the study. They recruited a total of 135,725 volunteers aged 16 and older to complete an online survey in England throughout a 5-month period in 2023. Almost 1 in 6 adults reported feeling lonely, often or always. That's sad. And more than 1 in 5 frequently felt a lack of companionship, or had feelings of being left out or isolated. Now, we've talked a lot about isolation, loneliness, how that could increase dementia, increase depression, anxiety, worsen your health. No wonder we're having issues. They say researchers dug deeper, and they found that the loneliest people were clustered in urban environments and cities, like London, Birmingham, and Manchester. Dr. Austin L. Osta, public researcher and study lead for Interact, said the key message is not simply that many people feel lonely, but that loneliness is strongly influenced by people's surrounding social network and their environment. This reflected what they call the urban paradox theory. The study said where major cities that offer greater economic, cultural, and social advantages often report lower life satisfaction, connectivity, and happiness compared to people in rural areas. And they say this was a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nearly 44% of respondents said the pandemic increased their feelings of loneliness, while 48.2% reported increased feelings of isolation. Senior author of the study was Dr. Azim Majed of the National Health Service, and he says, as an NHS GP, I see how loneliness affects both the mental and physical health of my patients. It contributes to problems like anxiety, depression, increases the risk of long-term condition, and often leads to more frequent consultations. They want to recommend strengthening community connections, social capital, help prevent loneliness, and enable people to live healthier, happier, more connected lives. So a big part of this, I have to also say, is religion. You know, people used to go to church on Sundays, go to temple on Friday night or Saturday, have potlucks, have men's club, women's club. That's changed. And maybe in rural areas, the church is still a big part of community, But a lot of people, especially younger people, have kind of abandoned that. They also, looked at, people being married. They said 45% of respondents were married or in a civil partnership, while almost 20% of those lonely were single. They say loneliness is often treated as a private experience, but our findings reinforce that it is also a public health and community issue. Some people married are lonely being married. Their spouse doesn't talk to them. They don't really interact. They don't do things. They feel lonely. You really need a friend group. It's interesting. When I first got married with my husband, I was doing 36-hour shifts. I was in residency. And you saw where, when I would come home, he really wanted to interact and do stuff. I don't blame him. Meanwhile, I'm exhausted because I've been up for 36, 37 hours and I got to do the whole thing again. And I told him, don't worry about me. Call your buddies. I miss you. This will end soon, in a year or two. And thank you for being there for me. And thank you for being supportive through this. But you got to hang out with your friends. Go ahead. I don't even care if you go to strip clubs. Just, hang out with your buddies. And he's like, but, I moved and not a lot of them are here. And I feel like I should be here when you come home. And I'm like, I love it. But make sure you keep that up because you're going to get lonely. You're going to get bored. And that was probably one of the best pieces of advice I could give him. Because a lot of people, when they marry, they don't know how comfortable the spouse is going to be. I'm fine with his friends. Go ahead. Great. Now, some of his friends would try to call me and ask for narcotics. No, I don't like that friend. Tell him to back off. I'm not giving the medications. But the majority of his friends are really awesome. Hang out with them. Do poker night. Do stuff. Because if I'm working a lot, that could be an issue. That's why a lot of people struggle in medical school and in residency with their spouse because their spouse is bored to death. And they want to have a spouse. They want to go to the movies. They want to go out. They want to do date night. They want to, and you're working long hours. Thank God that eventually ended. And now my husband's probably sick of me. But it's really important for married couples to talk about that. But, why would being in London or let's say New York City, why would people be more lonely in a big city? Well, I'm very loquacious and I'm very social. But I noticed even with me, when I was, running around New York City, I didn't interact with other people because, again, I didn't know how safe it was. Okay, it used to be you talk to somebody on the street, have a conversation with somebody at a grocery store. Well, crime has been up. And I'm watching these people in New York, right? Nobody's really sitting talking to anybody. They run, do their thing, eyes on the ground, holding their purses or their clutches or the briefcase and just... let me do my thing before somebody mugs me or somebody. And so maybe with the urban part of it, people are so worried about crime that they're like, let me do whatever I have to do outside and then get the hell back to my workplace or home. Well, that kind of stinks. Also, people aren't going to work. You used to go to work, you used to be around people. I was talking to my husband about that, since I work at home doing telemedicine. When students and people do reach out to me, I'm like, okay, I want to go out. I'm getting stir crazy. And I go, I didn't realize how much I need to be out and around other people. If you're working from home, you're really isolating. And then you start to forget how to be out and about. Luckily, went out with some friends this weekend, went over to some more friends who just had a baby. So I luckily, had a very busy social weekend, went to the movies with my, son and daughter-in-law. But if you don't have a social group, it's frustrating. And it really leads to, you struggling. Let's say you need to go to the doctor and you don't have family around. Do you have friends? Do you have people you could rely on? And I even noticed with some of my friends' groups, we don't go out as much as we used to. Is it because we're tired? Is it because we don't want to spend money? Is it because we feel like, well, if I go out with them, I need to also call the other people because they're going to know that we went out. And then I need to see them and I need to see, I'm going out again tonight. I'm glad about that. But I was thinking not to. I was like, I could go home and I could watch the next Silo and I could do my, but no. Be around other people, even if it's a short period of time. But these younger individuals, if they're not going to school or school is online, if work is online, where are they meeting people? I was working at Jack in the Box. I was tutoring. I was on campus. I was at fraternity parties. So I was always around people. A lot of exposure to people. So it was easier to date. Now the average person has to go online to find somebody to date. that it makes it more difficult. You know, you need to see that person across the room, get a feel for them, see if they're flirting with somebody else, seeing if they're you know, there's just so much else, so much more you pick up the nuances. But unfortunately, you know, people are more to themselves. They're worried about crime. They're worried about getting stabbed. They're worried about spending money. And they're like, you know what? It's safer. Nobody's taking the risks anymore. You know, my son, you know, finished college, but the last few years were online, even though the COVID pandemic is over. And you know, I'm like, so aren't you, what about the tailgates? What about it's like nobody's out and about. Even at the library, nobody talks to each other. Interesting. One of my friends just went to Japan, and she said when you walk in the streets in Japan, nobody talks to anybody. It's all quiet. Even on the subways, nobody talks. I'd be like, hey, man, what's up? Hey, that was fun. Did you see the game? No. Nobody talks to each other. So that means I got to be careful when I go to Japan. I want to go to Japan, but if I'm going to be like, shh, I'll have to be quiet. But I'm going to be like, I want to say hi. I'm going to be busting out of my subway. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a lot of questions are still surrounding Lindsay Clancy. She's the Massachusetts mother who's been on trial for killing her 3 children back in January 2023. And she was diagnosed with postpartum depression and then obviously postpartum psychosis because she ends up killing her kids and then trying to kill herself. She has, I believe, admitted, her defense team has admitted that she was the one that murdered her kids. But where the defense is going is that the doctors were negligent, that she sought help from her psychiatrists and medical advisors for postpartum anxiety and depression, but that they failed to act, failed to medicate properly, maybe possibly over-medicate, and never saw her in person, was through telemedicine. And so some lawyer pundits are looking at this going, she might actually be able to not get off completely, but get a really diminished sentence if they prove that the doctors messed up. So according to CNN, Ms. Clancy had 14 telehealth sessions with her primary outpatient psychiatrist, Dr. Jennifer Tufts, between September 2022 and January 23rd, 2023. Now, I learned during my psychiatry training, you need to be holding the person's hand, pick up nuances with their toe tapping, with their hand wrenching. When that in person is one of the best ways to do it. But because of COVID and now that we have Zoom and telemedicine, a lot of doctors have been increasing access and getting people who don't usually like to go and drive and make an appointment. They've been, a lot of psychiatric patients do like being at home, doing telemedicine, but that shouldn't be their only care. You should still have one-on-one interactions. Apparently, Miss Clancy didn't. Apparently, she checked herself into a psychiatric hospital on New Year's Eve 2022, seeking intensive help as her brain fog and anxiety worsened. So that was weeks before the murder. She checked herself in, but apparently still didn't get the help or the right diagnosis. And then the defense says that the medical system failed to recognize the severity of her mental decline, and she and her former husband are now filing malpractice lawsuits against her healthcare providers, claiming she was improperly treated and over-medicated. So what did they give her? So the medications she got, all right, if I could pull this up, I apologize, included apparently 12 to 13 different medications spanning over 30 total filled prescriptions. And she was given Zoloft, maybe not on it all at the same time, Zoloft, Prozac, Remeron, amitriptyline, that's for depression, and serotonin selective reuptake inhibiting. Antipsychotics included Seroquel and Lamictal. Benzodiazepines and anti-anxiety medication, Ativan, Valium, Klonopin, Buspirone, hydroxyzine. Sleep aids, you could use hydroxyzine for sleep, trazodone, Ambien, Benadryl. The forensic toxicologist testified during the trial that post-murder blood tests confirmed a cocktail of 6 prescription drugs in her systems. Seroquel was found at roughly double the standard dosage concentration, as well as Ativan, Valium, Seroquel, Lamictal, Remeron, and trazodone. Now, excuse me, Ativan and Valium are in the same class. Somebody asked me, why would she be on 2 benzodiazepines? Well, Ativan is fast-acting, and then Valium is longer-acting. So I have seen people on 2. I don't like prescribing it that way, but it's because the Ativan is supposed to work super-duper quick. The Valium is a little longer, slower-acting to give longer control, but you could still overdose on it. If you take it too much, you can withdraw and seize. These medications can interact with each other. So it's pretty, frightening to see that she sought care, she went for care, but ends up still killing her kids. Just so tragic. Now, it's not that uncommon to see people on multiple medications. When one doesn't work, the doctor tries another one. If that doesn't work, they try another one. Sometimes they might add to it. The reason why I didn't do psychiatry is because I was just humbled by how much you really need to understand the pharmacology and how it could work unpredictably on people and understand how to titrate. And I was like, that is, insulin is, for me, I like family medicine. And even though in family medicine, you do prescribe antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, if at all I thought somebody was having severe issues, I immediately deferred them to a psychiatrist because they had more training. And so the psychiatrists are the pharmacology experts. But in people, it could be very unpredictable, especially with their environment. And 3 kids. No mom should kill her kids. But sadly, it's happening. And these people are overwhelmed and they go through psychosis where they lose their mind. Whether she heard voices or whatever prompted her to do it, she did something she should have never done. And so the first question I had with all this is, why didn't any of them get Child Protective Services involved? If you knew you had a mom that could possibly hurt her kids, get Child Protective Services there, or temporarily get the kids away from the mom, or never have the mom alone with the kids. Why didn't any of the providers do that? That's very, and again, and I don't want to sit here and say, well, it's all the doctor's fault. Obviously, she's the one that committed the murder. But if I had a patient who said, Doc, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt my kids, I would say, look, let me get some people to help you. And I would get Child Protective Services involved immediately. That's what why didn't that happen here? Why was she left alone with the 3 kids? We cannot have parents murdering their children. We need to have a better system. And usually what ends up happening is the parent, nobody knew the parent had issues. The parent wasn't going to the doctor. This person was going to doctors. Lost opportunity. So it's concerning. Now, these medications can only do so much. If you have somebody of unsound mind and psychotic episodes, it blows my mind the amount and the types of medications we have that work on many, but it doesn't mean they're a cure. What if that person skips a dose? What if it's a generic medication and something happened in Mexico or in another country and one of the pills in the lots didn't get the exact same amounts of the medication? What if it's a dud lot? What if it's, I mean, how many times have we gotten somewhere where, like, I don't think the medicine's working? Well, let me write your brand name and see what happens. Not that all generics run that risk, but still. When you have somebody who has psychosis or severe depression or anxiety, you got to watch them closer. You got to make sure somebody is there for the kids. You have to make sure they aren't triggered. And being alone with 3 kids running around in the house could trigger them. I don't understand why there wasn't more done. So now people are looking at, are we over-medicating? I know a lot of people looked at Rob Reiner's son, who killed Rob Reiner and his wife. They were like, well, was it the medications that did it? It's hard to say. Was it the medications? Was it the wrong medications? Was it medication interaction? Or was it that he didn't take his medications? People that have mental illness really need the support and need more supervision. And this case with Clancy, exemplifies that. And this is just absolutely horrific what ended up happening. And all doctors need to be aware that if at all they think the children are at risk, get them away from the person that could hurt them. 1-877 Dr. Ali, don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.